I've got you now, He-Man!
Everybody's thinking about me, but I feel alright. Everybody's out to get me, but I feel alright.
Now this game I like. I really like the Man of Medan. That's this one. Part of Supermassive Games' Dark Pictures Anthology. This is the first one in the series. There will be another one next year called Little Hope. But this one is a spooky adventure set out on the ocean, ghost ships and all that kind of malarkey. And what really makes it shine is its unique approach to co-op. It can be played solo. It can also be played with a group of people in the same room passing the controller around. But it really seems like it was designed to show its true nature if you play it online where you cannot see the other player's decisions. Me and my art director Justin played this. We had a call going so we could hear each other, we could talk to each other, but I couldn't see what he was doing, he couldn't see what I was doing, and that made for a really tense experience. Basically, it controls very similarly to Until Dawn, which means it's like a Quantic Dream game, but good. And all of the trappings of those are in there. You've got QTEs, almost like evolved Dragon's Lair type sequences, quick decisions you got to make in conversation, what to say, who to speak to, what decisions to make. Sometimes make no decision at all. You can see here you get an option to say nothing or various ways to approach a conversation, which will update the traits and relationships of the characters in a background system that's judging what you do. But like I say, this really shines through in the co-op. In any given scene, you'll be playing one of the main characters, your co-op partner will be playing another one. They have full autonomy over what they make their character say and do, as do you, and yeah, you've got to look out for each other. There are periods like this where the characters are together, and you've got to try and work together to, get out of a situation. Here we had to bash a window at the same time, in time with the thunder to avoid trouble. That didn't work out, so I am playing the character of Conrad here, trying to sneak. Justin was in the other room. I couldn't see what he was doing. Clearly he did something there that made too much noise, so that bit where I was controlling my breathing was right out the window. So sometimes you'll be geared up to perform a certain activity and then not get to do it because of what the other player does. Sometimes that can be a little frustrating if, I'm in the middle of something and then I'm basically interrupted. But it's all part of the experience, and I'm constantly more intrigued by what's going on. Without playing again, or, looking at a Let's Play or whatever, I would never know what was going on in the room with Justin while I was doing that, little sequence on the outside of the boat. And that's what's really clever and cool about it. I like the idea of asymmetric co-op, where the asymmetry comes in the form of the actual storyline and the point of view characters. Now this decision I made where you reach for the gun, I did that because I did this with Until Dawn, where I actually led a character to their death because it was such a good horror movie cliche scene. Where there was a noise, someone went to investigate it, it was clear that, death waited that way, but I couldn't resist it because I love cheesy horror movies, and it was too much of a cheesy horror movie moment. And that's what's so good about this game is, and indeed Until Dawn, is death is just part of the story. So if a character dies, it's not a game over, that's just the way the story went. We did try and protect all the characters in this one. It didn't work out too well. We ended up with 2 of the 3 characters alive, so that's how that went. So here's an example of a scene where we are totally separate. So I'm playing this character here, Fliss. Justin is in some other part of the boat. We're on a big ship now. He's on some other part of the boat. I don't know what he's doing. The only clue I get is I sometimes hear the jump scare noises come through the call we're on, and the occasional yell of, oh shit, from Justin, or, for God's sake, I pressed the button, I pressed it. And you can choose to tell your co-op partner what you've experienced. You'll get little flashes sometimes on the screen telling you they found a secret. It's up to them to tell you. I'd be very interested in playing one of these Dark Picture games where the characters have distinct goals that the other one doesn't know. That's not so much the case in this game. All the main characters are in this together. It only behooves them to work together, so there's no paranoia and intrigue from... nothing to be gained from being all, oh, you don't know what I'm doing, and keeping it close to your chest. If you get clues, it only helps everyone to share it. In the future games, I would very much like to see what happens if you're sticking with certain characters that have goals that might not gel with what the other player's trying to do. But either way, this is a really nice easing into the concept of co-op where you just don't know what someone else is doing. And of course, for those who judge replay value in terms of always getting fresh content rather than a game just being good enough to play again, there's replay value to be had in going through, trying other different point of view characters, and just seeing, the complete elements of the story. And of course, trying to keep people alive and not getting half the cast, well, more than half the cast killed. The writing itself is, again, very much like Until Dawn, which some might not care for, but it's got this, almost this trashy, and I mean that in a good way, this trashy mid-2000s horror vibe, which is what Until Dawn had. There's something a little bit unsubtle about it. This whole idea of just a bunch of young characters that are not that trendy because it's all just a little bit dated, getting themselves into spooky situations. I will say, the general conceit of the horror in this one is it becomes predictable almost immediately. And what's going on, if you've ever played, if you've ever watched a film, even vaguely similar to the scenario going on here, you'll cotton on to what's going on pretty quickly. And even then, you might not, what's the word? You'll probably pick it up anyway. But that didn't stop me from making some really silly mistakes. What's really good about this game is even if you feel like you know what's going on, because you're playing a video game, you feel the urge to press all the buttons and do all the things, even if that goes against the best interests of the characters, and even if you know there's a better option. It's a game that's really good at manipulating your experience as a player to produce outcomes you might not necessarily want. But it's still a little bit predictable in places. So, yeah. The performances are nice. The visuals are, well, it's all facial capture stuff. So it's a little uncanny, sometimes a little creepier than it should be. I'm still not sure how much I like facial capture stuff. Remedy does it a lot, Supermassive Games does it a lot. There are a few studios that insist on always using it so that the characters look exactly like their actors. But I kind of miss original character designs in video games. Or, the potential for voice actors who are voice actors and not established actors to get work in the game industry. It's always impressive as a piece of technology, but it still always looks a little creepy and uncanny, especially if there are actors who you recognize. It always weirds me out just a little bit, but it's still a pretty game. It's got a real nice atmosphere to it, and while I didn't find it a particularly scary game, the jump scares are a little bit unimpressive and a little bit desperate to try and get a scare out of you. And the overall, the general horror of it just isn't all that scary. Again, especially if you figure out quickly, and you will, what's going on. But because you're playing with someone else, and because sometimes their decisions impact your ability to survive, or certainly creates the illusion that that's the case, it is nonetheless a very tense experience. You're working together, you're relying on the other player. Like this moment here, it was clear that Justin, playing Julia there, had to bonk that bloke in the face. And I'm sat here thinking, please get the prompt right. Please bonk that bloke in the face. Don't cock that up. And he was thinking the same with me with various points. And, you know, if you mess up, it'll be on the other player to help you, and they could choose to just help themselves. You're relying on them, and that's what adds to the horror here. Not the atmosphere, which is quite good, not the jump scares, which aren't so good, but just relying on people. And really, isn't that the biggest horror of all? I don't know what I mean by that. Anyway, the point is I quite like this. I know there was some split opinion on this. Some people weren't too fond of it. In fact, someone sent me a message saying that I should tear into it. But we played through it all last night. Both me and Justin really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I like it.